these nest boxes in the Iron Wood have been here since 1955, and these boxes were first put up in the very early days of nest boxing. It was the third earliest nest box scheme in the country, and they're actually put up. Pied Flycatchers weren't recorded breeding in the wood at that point, but they were actually put up for an experiment looking at the height preference of blue and great tits for their nest sites. But in the first year, a pair of Pied Flycatchers occupied one of these nest boxes, and they've bred in them ever since. And now we have the largest population in southern England here at the Iron Wood and at East Dartmoor National Nature Reserve, as it's now called. So what do we learn from these boxes? Well, all these boxes are closely monitored each breeding season. They're monitored regularly enough so we know when they lay their first egg, which is a really important measure of timing. So we know the timing of breeding, which is really important for us in studies of looking at how that's changed over time. We know what the clutch size is, and that gives an indication about the quality of the female and the quality of the territory that the bird's nesting in, and we also know how many chicks ultimately fledge, so we get an idea of productivity. And of course, nest boxes are ideal for catching and ringing the birds as well, so that makes that task fairly straightforward. And these Pied Flycatchers have been ringed right from 1955, so we've got a very long history of individuals. Not that individuals live anything like that long, they typically only last, well, the oldest birds will live sort of 6 or 7 years, but most of them will perish within a couple of years. So what have we learned? So one of the things I'm interested in is looking at the effects of climate change on these birds, and because we've got this measure of timing, their first egg date, one of the things I'm interested in looking at is whether that timing has changed, because climate change, it means that spring has become earlier, so it's a couple of weeks earlier now than it was in the 1950s. And by looking at the first egg dates of these Pied Flycatchers, we can see that Pied Flycatchers have managed to adapt to this advancing spring, and they do actually lay their eggs 2 weeks earlier now than they did in the 1950s. And this is very important for them. They have to time their breeding very precisely, as do the blue and great tits that also use the boxes. They have to time their breeding so that the most amount of food available, so there's a real seasonal peak in food availability in the woodlands, mostly caterpillars but also flying insects, and they need to time their breeding just right so that when the chicks are hungriest, it's when the most invertebrates are available. Just a few days too early or a few days too late can make all the difference.